Hi, and welcome to Question Dissection Part 3 with Study Notes ABA with me, Danielle. All right, so per the usual, please don't steal our shit. So how this is going to work is I'm going to read the question, give you a few seconds to pause before we go into the answers, so that you have the opportunity to dissect the question, and then we'll go over the answers together. Mrs. Harper observes that Olivia frequently delays cleanup when instructed, often by engaging in off-topic conversations with her peers or by moving slowly while fiddling with items inside her desk. After discussing the issue with the behavior support team, Mrs. Harper decides to make a few changes. She adds a visual timer, and if Olivia begins cleaning up within the short window of time, Mrs. Harper excuses her from the final step of the routine, which is wiping the tables, which is Olivia's least preferred step. Within 2 weeks, Olivia begins initiating cleanup more quickly and with fewer interruptions or delays. Which of the following explains Olivia's timely cleanup? A, positive reinforcement, B, negative reinforcement, B, negative punishment, C, negative reinforcement, D, task fading. All right, I'm going to give you a second for you to pause. Okay, let's go into the answer. The correct answer here is C, negative reinforcement. Olivia's behavior of cleaning up promptly is increased because it allows her to avoid a non-preferred task, wiping the tables. By responding within the time limit, she escapes a part of the routine. Since the behavior timely cleanup is increased due to the removal of something aversive, this is an example of negative reinforcement. The change in behavior is directly linked to the consequences of avoiding the least preferred task, which supports the conclusion that the intervention is maintaining the behavior through escape-based reinforcement. The other incorrect answers are positive reinforcement. There's no preferred stimuli being added to increase the behavior. It is not negative punishment. Nothing preferred is being removed to reduce behavior, and it's not task fading. Task fading was gradually reduced or systematically faded in steps. All right, here is our second question. Lola, a behavior analyst working in public elementary school, is implementing an intervention to teach a student named Grace how to complete a multi-step hygiene routine independently, washing her hands, brushing her teeth, and combing her hair. Each step in the routine requires different materials and occurs at different times of the day. Lola decides not to collect continuous baseline data every day for all 3 skills. Instead, she checks in to assess whether the skills are occurring naturally without intervention, maintaining the potential for reactivity and avoiding unnecessary instruction on untargeted steps. She begins instruction on hand washing only and then continues to check in on the other skills, brushing teeth and combing hair intermittently. Once Grace masters hand washing, Lola begins direct instruction on brushing teeth and later combing hair. Each time instruction is introduced, Grace quickly learns the new skill. Which experimental design is Lola using? A, multiple baseline across behaviors, B, changing criteria design, C, multiple probe across behaviors, D, alternating treatment design. All right, let me give you a second. All right, here we go. Here is the correct answer. The correct answer is going to be C, multiple probe across behaviors. Lola is using multiple probe across behaviors design. Rather than collecting continuous baseline data for all 3 hygiene skills, she conducts intermittent probes to assess whether untrained skills emerge naturally while focusing instruction on this one skill at a time. This approach helps reduce unnecessary exposure to testing procedures and avoids reactivity. She begins with hand washing, then moves to brushing teeth, and finally to combing hair, introducing instruction sequentially and only after confirming that each untrained skill has not yet emerged. This method is especially useful when the behaviors are functionally independent and time and resources are limited, making continuous baseline collection impractical. Why are the other ones incorrect? Multiple baseline across behaviors is incorrect. This design involves continuous baseline data for all target behaviors, which Lola specifically avoids. Changing criteria design is used to shape a single behavior gradually by adjusting performance criteria, not multiple direct behaviors. Alternating treatment design. This design involves rapidly alternating 2 or more interventions to compare effects, which is not happening here. All right, let's go to our next question. Luca is a 6-year-old receiving ABA services to reduce elopement. During sessions, he learns to stay seated at his therapy table in response to the verbal directions, sit down, delivered by his RBT, Mariah, in a calm tone and with a visual cue card. After 2 weeks, Luca consistently stays seated when Mariah gives the direction. Later, without a direct training, Luca also remains seated when his teacher says sit down in a firmer tone with no visual cues. And his older sister casually says, go ahead and sit while they're doing crafts at home. Luca responds correctly in both cases, even though the people, phrasing, tone, and setting have changed. What behavior concept best explains Luca's correct responding in this context? A, response generalization, B, stimulus generalization, C, discrimination training, D, contingency shape behavior. All right, give you a second. Okay, here is our answer. The answer here is going to be stimulus generalization. Luca's ability to respond correctly to similar instructions across different people, tones, and settings and phrases reflect stimulus generalization. In this case, the learned response sitting down was initially taught under specific stimulus conditions. Mariah's calm voice, the phrase sit down, and the visual cue. However, Luca began to generalize this skill to other untrained skills, such as his teacher's firmer voice, different wording, go ahead and sit, and new environments, home versus therapy. This demonstrates that his behavior is now under the control of a broader class of stimuli, not just the exact conditions in which he was taught, a hallmark of stimulus generalization. Why are the others incorrect? Response generalization would involve Luca engaging in a different but functionally equivalent behavior, which isn't the case here. Maintenance refers to continuing a skill over time, not reducing across different skills, not responding across different skills. Prompt dependency involves reliance on prompts to perform a behavior, which does not apply here since Luca responds independently across a context. All right, here's our next question. A BCBA is working with a young adult named Ava to build independence in using a self-checkout kiosk at different grocery stores. Instead of teaching her to use just one specific machine, the BCBA designs a teaching protocol that includes practicing on multiple brands and models of self-checkout kiosks with different touchscreen layouts, scanner locations, and payment options across various store environments, and with different types of purchases, items with barcodes, produce that require manual input, coupons. After training, Ava is able to use new, unfamiliar checkout kiosks successfully, even ones she's never seen before. Which instructional strategy did the BCBA use to promote this level of generalized responding? A, multiple exemplar training, B, response generalization, C, stimulus generalization, D, general case analysis. Okay, I'm going to give you a second to pause. Okay, all right, our correct answer here is general case analysis. The BCBA used general case analysis, a systematic instructional strategy designed to promote generalization by teaching with a representative range of examples and context. Rather than training Ava on just one type of checkout, the BCBA intentionally incorporated multiple brands, screen layouts, scanner types, and purchase variations into instruction. This method helps the learner identify the critical features of the task across variations, making it more likely they will perform the skill successfully in unfamiliar situations. Ava's success with kiosks she has never directly encountered during training demonstrates that general case analysis was effectively used to promote flexible real-world responding. Why are the other ones incorrect? Multiple exemplar training involves varied examples, but without this systematic selection and analysis of relevant stimuli dimensions seen in general case analysis. Response generalization refers to the different responses that serve the same function, not the same response across varying stimuli. And stimulus generalization describes the outcome responding across stimuli, but not the instructional strategy used to achieve it. All right, here we go. Mr. Boyd, a school-based BCBA, has implemented a behavior intervention plan to reduce elopement for a student named Ethan. The intervention includes functional communication training and a visual schedule with embedded reinforcement for staying in assigned areas. For the first 2 weeks, Mr. Boyd collects frequency data on elopement and duration data on the time spent in assigned areas. The data shows no significant change in the elopement behavior, and Ethan continues to leave the classroom multiple times per day. Mr. Boyd conducts treatment integrity checks and confirms the intervention is being implemented with high fidelity by staff. He also confirms that Ethan has the prerequisite skills to use the communication strategies. After reviewing the data and contextual variables, Mr. Boyd meets with the team and proposes an intervention modification, adjusting the reinforcement schedule and adding a response cost component to increase motivation and accountability. What is the reason for Mr. Boyd's decision to modify the intervention? A, the staff report frustration with the student's behavior, so a more punitive intervention was added. B, data indicated the current intervention was ineffective despite being implemented with integrity, so a modification was warranted. C, the intervention had only been in place for 2 weeks, but modifying it early increases the likelihood of faster results. D, the student's parents requested a stricter plan, so Mr. Boyd adjusted the intervention accordingly, regardless of the data. All right, I'm going to give you just a second. All right, here we go. The correct answer here is going to be B. Data indicated the current intervention was ineffective despite being implemented with integrity, so a modification was warranted. Mr. Boyd followed a data-driven decision-making process as required by the BACB Ethics Code 3.0 run responsibility to clients. He collected and reviewed objective data on elopement and engagement, confirmed that the intervention was implemented with high fidelity, ensured that Ethan had a necessary prerequisite skills for the targeted replacement behavior. Despite these factors, the data showed that no meaningful change in behavior, which justified the need to revise the plan. By modifying the reinforcement schedule and incorporating a response cost, Mr. Boyd is adapting to the intervention based on effectiveness, not preference or emotion, demonstrating ethical and professional clinical judgment. Okay, why are the other ones incorrect? The staff reported frustration with the student's behavior, so a more punitive intervention was added. Ethical decisions should be based on data, not staff emotion or frustration. C, the intervention had only been in place for 2 weeks, but modifying it early increases the likelihood of a faster result. Modifying interventions too early without cause risk, undermining intervention stability and data validity. D is incorrect. The student's parents requested a stricter plan, so Mr. Boyd adjusted the intervention accordingly, regardless of the data. Parent input is a valuable but ethical intervention change must be supported by data and professional analysis. All right, that's it. You have made it to the end of your mini question dissection. You know where to find us. You can find us at STUDYNOTESABA.com. You can email us at contact@STUDYNOTESABA.com. You can find us on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. You can always check us out at Behavior Bitches Podcast. We love you. We mean it. Happy studying.